Hello and welcome to my review for Wildling, a film that I had no real anticipation for, and yet somehow became the most disappointing film of 2018 for me personally. And you might be asking yourself, why was it a disappointment if you weren't anticipating it in any way, shape or form? Which I wasn't. I knew nothing about this film. I hadn't seen the trailers. I was at the cinema, was looking what was on, and saw that it starred Liv Tyler and Brad Dourif, and I thought, do you know what, I'm in. It's only 90 minutes, let's go check out Wildling. I went in like a blindling to Wildling and saw nothing but disappointment. Now why? Well, because the first 30 minutes were incredible. I loved the opening of this film. The first act of this film I was in love with. I was so on board with everything that was happening. And then it just started to nosedive really, really quickly. I don't think it's a bad film. I don't think it's an outstanding film either. But for me, going into it blind and kind of taking it at face value, it kind of spoiled it. I don't know if you watch the trailer and see that it's about what it's about, that you would go in with an expectation that is more in line with what the film is giving you. Now let's get into it very briefly. We have Belle Powley, a British actress, again playing an American, who plays the girl Anna, who at the beginning of the film we see it's this kind of prologue to the movie. It sets up the whole story. We see this young girl called Anna living in a room with her daddy. That's the character's name, played by Brad Dourif, and he comes in and he sees her and he teaches her things and basically keeps her there either captive or as a protection kind of method, because he tells her these stories about the wildlings out in the woods that eat children. She's the only child left. So it's kind of up to you in those opening stages of the film to kind of think, is this guy really sinister, or is he really trying to protect his daughter from these wildlings? Or is he just insane and he believes about these things? You know, there's a lot of different angles it can go. I wasn't expecting the one that happened to be the one it was going to go to would be the one it was going to go to, if that makes sense. I really couldn't have seen where this film was going. And when you know what it's about, it's kind of predictable. Again, I'm sure the trailer sets it all up and gives away pretty much everything about the film. I loved the beginning. It was so dark, it was so disturbing, and I thought Brad Dourif was incredible. Playing daddy, playing this guy who was keeping his daughter there, and you know, for a reason that you weren't entirely sure of. The mystery had me on the edge of my seat. When she becomes old enough to have her first period, he panics and starts injecting her in the stomach with some kind of substance that kind of holds her kind of you know, her system at bay. And then we kind of move forward to when she's 16 and she's, you know, she's mortally ill, as we see through her belly that is just covered in these, you know, these needle marks. You know, he's riddled her stomach with scars and has been injecting her every day for, you know, over a decade at this point. Well, I guess it wouldn't be more than a decade, but years and years at least. She's on the verge of death. And spoilers, you know, I don't feel like even doing a spoiler warning here, but spoilers, he tries to kill himself. Because he's racked with guilt. He sees what he's done to his daughter. While he believes that what he's doing is right, he can see that it is literally tearing her apart, and he's going to lose her. And he decides he can't face that, he wants to lose himself. So he tries to kill himself, and that's when the police step in and find out that there's a girl who's been held captive for, you know, a quarter of a lifetime. It's like the film Room if the kid actually had to grow up to, you know, young adulthood, not knowing anything but four walls. And I found that so intriguing and so dark and so moving. When we see Anna getting driven around town afterwards, I was like welling up. Not at the way the film had executed it, but just the idea of it I found so powerful and haunting and horrible. You know, imagine that. Like, she has literally known nothing but one person for her entire life and has been kind of conditioned to think that there are no other people out there. And now she sees this whole town full of people. Like, just, it's overwhelming as an idea. And she gets taken in by the sheriff of the town, played by Liv Tyler, Ellen, who was a very warm and mothering presence in the film. And I've seen people, even Lee, Drum Dum's review, kind of, I think he says something along the lines of Liv Tyler seems like she's kind of sleepwalking through the role, or she just seems very tired, something like that. And I can get that kind of criticism to Liv Tyler, but I think that she really felt grounded, and I really liked Liv Tyler's performance in the film. She takes Anna in because the police, the government, they can't match her DNA to anyone. They don't know who this girl is, you know, where she's come from. And that again was ratcheting up the mystery to me, like, who is this girl? Why was Daddy keeping her locked away? What's the, you know, I couldn't wait to see where this was going, and I thought Bel Powley did a top-notch job throughout the entire movie for the most part. Really sold this kind of wide-eyed, you know, wonder at everything. She didn't overplay it. It didn't feel overdone. It felt realistic and just haunting. Again, to come back to that word, I thought she was great. And Liv Tyler I really liked, and Brad Dourif in the beginning of the film was fantastic. Then it goes from this really interesting kind of like thriller to a kind of teen movie with horror elements, I guess. It got to the point where Anna's out and about around town because Ellen is apparently, you know, leaving this very disturbed young girl who's been held captive for 16 years. Yeah, just go out, wander around town if you want. Just, you know, they don't even know who this girl is yet. They don't have the DNA results back, or they don't, you know, haven't. I think they can't match her DNA to anything or whatever, so they're still waiting to kind of find out more information, and she just lets her roam around free on her own. You know, it's been a couple of days, but yeah, sure, go on, go out. And she gets invited to a party, they go to a party, and it's like, oh, this is the teen movie, and, you know, the outsider. And then, of course, Ellen has a younger brother who lives with her, and he's like kind of Anna's age, and they kind of take a liking to each other, they kiss, and it's just like, oh, this just went and turned into a completely different movie. But here's the kicker. Anna's teeth start falling out. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Well, I guess the poison, I'm thinking, the stuff he was injecting into her is ruining her teeth. That's horrible. And then I slowly realized, oh, she's a wildling. AKA a werewolf. AKA this is a werewolf movie. And Anna begins to turn into this big, hairy werewolf monster. And the last third of the film is this kind of like faux Rambo, you know, First Blood sequence where she's out in the woods and everyone's trying to get her and she's killing people, and they lost me. They completely lost me with that stuff. I was so much more interested in this as a real-world drama, and then you introduce that and it's just like, But again, that's the thing. I wasn't sold on this movie as anything other than a film to go and see. So sometimes going in blind is a great thing, sometimes it's kind of a curse, more than a blessing. You know, if you go in knowing this is a werewolf movie, which I'm sure is what it's marketed as, then you're going to expect that kind of thing, and you're probably going to enjoy it more. But for me, it just kind of ruined everything that first act was building up. Like Daddy, he didn't, you know, he didn't succeed in killing himself, so he's in the hospital and stuff, and then he gets up and he's, you know, he's got a thing on his face, he shot himself through the cheek, but he's fine. Or at least, you know, he's moving around, and then like he's out and about and stuff, and the police haven't detained this guy who held a girl captive for a decade and a half. I mean, you could argue that he left on the run, but then he comes back to the police station. I just the logic, you know, and I get into this kind of logic debate with people, like A Quiet Place, one of my favorite films of the year. People going, oh, well, they would have figured it out by now. Oh, there's never, like, you know, there are certain elements of logic where, you know, you need to let them slide, otherwise there's no movie. In the case of A Quiet Place, you know. And again, you judge it on a case-by-case basis. But here, it's just very simple things that just don't seem to add up. Again, why would he run scot-free? Why would this girl be able to just wander about by herself? I get that you need Anna to go out and meet people and to see more of this exploration of her, you know, seeing what other people are like, but just the fact that maybe if Ellen had said to her, you know, her brother, like, you stay with her at all times because, you know, we don't know, she's disturbed or whatever. And I really liked the relationship that was building up between Anna and Ellen, and how she was kind of, you know, trying to help her, and Anna wouldn't sleep in the bed, she'd sleep in the cupboard and stuff, and I really loved where it was going in the beginning, and then I just lost interest towards the end. There's some very good practical effects for the, you know, how Anna turns into the wildling and so on. But by the time we get to the end of the film, like the very end of the film, I just found myself not caring when it's an ending that really wants you to, oh, you know, and really care for, you know, what happens to Anna. But I was just like, you know, it's just one of those things. It was really disappointing. I don't think it's a bad film. I really don't. But it's not a great film. And it had so much potential. And even like Brad Dourif, who was so fucking good in the opening of the film, you know, his character gets kind of reduced to this kind of, you know, it just gets a bit more flat as it goes on. And there's some stuff in a cave that was all CGI'd to hell, and it looked crap compared to the rest of the film. So yeah, this film was really disappointing to me. I think it's out now on demand. They kind of had, like, they showed it in some cinemas, and then now it's out on demand on Amazon, something like that. So give the trailer a look. You know, if you like the look of it, I think it is still worth a watch for some of the performances. And you know, again, it's not bad. It's just I was so thrown off by my expectations that were being formed as I watched the film. It was like tracks getting laid down in front of the train as it's rolling. You know, you got to kind of keep up with it in real time, and then it went off the rails for me. So it's just one of those things. So that's my thoughts on Wildling. Bit of a misfire for me personally, but again, I've gone into why that probably is. But yeah, there you go. Disappointment, but that happens sometimes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.